2 weeks ago, Anna and I went on a date. I decided I wanted to show her where I go on retreat, which is just outside of Scammon, Kansas. And so we were driving, headed west on Scammon Road. How many of you know Scammon Road? Not too far from here. You might consider an Sunday afternoon drive and check out the story I'm about to tell you. Now, I have been on Scammon Road many times. So we're driving, driving and talking, just going along. And we hit these, I guess they're called rumble strips. And well, that got my attention, so I slowed down a little bit. And there was a sign up that says, stop sign ahead. And we are driving along, and again, I slowed down further because obviously I was driving too fast, yet I've gone through 2 rumble strips and still going too fast. But I saw the third set coming. I saw it coming. So I slowed down even further and took that one very slowly. And sure enough, there was a stop sign. Another stop sign. There was flashing lights, traffic lights there. And it was red. So we stopped, we waited, it turned green. And we went through, and what is happening at that corner is that what used to be sort of a two-way bi-directional traffic is down to one lane being shared by both lanes, both directions. And it cuts across K7. And the authorities have gone out of their way to make sure that if you're driving on Scammon Road, whether you've been there 1,000 times or whether you're driving it for the first time on a Sunday afternoon stroll, they have gone out of their way to make sure that you know that there is a stop sign ahead. I wonder why. I wonder why. My guess is if you miss it, it will not be pretty. And we might come up with all sorts of explanations. Well, I was in a very intense conversation with my beloved. I just didn't see it coming up. Or this is my first time on this road. I had no idea. Whatever our explanations might be, I'm telling you, the authorities know this. And so 3 sets of rumble strips have been installed there. Check it out this afternoon if you want. There are signs letting you know there is a stop sign ahead. When you get there, light is flashing. Everything that could be done to say, don't miss it. This is important. Don't miss it. That's what I was thinking about when I read the text that Braden read for us so beautifully today. It says, "Hear, O Israel." That's a rumble strips. Don't miss it. This is big. This is huge. The people of Israel have just been freed out of slavery, out of Egypt. And they have wandered in the wilderness, the desert, for 40 years. They are now on the east side of the Jordan River. Moses has been told, Moses, you've done a good job, but you will not cross over to the other side. So he's telling them, hear, O Israel. He's letting them know what's coming. This is important. I will not go with you, but don't miss it. Hear, O Israel. What is it that is so important? The Lord is your God, the Lord alone. The Lord is your God, the Lord is one, or another translation, the Lord alone. In other words, you're getting ready to cross over the Jordan into a land that is flowing with milk and honey, and in that land, not everybody worships your God. be sure you don't become confused. The one who has set you free out of 400 years of slavery, that's your God. That's not everybody else's God out there. As you head on out, be grounded. And he says, love the Lord your God with all of your heart and with all of your soul and with all of your might. He says, what I'm telling you, I want you to put into your hearts. If you read the text further, it says, I want you to teach your children. He says, I want you to put it on your forehead. I want you to tattoo it onto your arm, today's translation. Because the farther away you go from this site, the less likely you are to remember how you got here in the first place. So teach your children. Don't miss it. The Lord is your God, the Lord alone. So that was a big moment. Moses trying to communicate to the people of Israel about their loyal relationship with God. Love the Lord your God. And when we think of love, we immediately think of emotions. And so he said a little bit more. It's about loyal action. Love with your heart. The heart was the seat of decisions. So love with your heart. Your decisions, your will. Love God from there. Love with your soul. Yes, that's the emotion. That's the passion. And then he says love with your might. Might is your connections, your influence, your assets, the things you can do, the things you can make happen. Might, your ability to do. Love God from there. In other words, love God with your totality. Nothing held back. Loyal action. Because God is the reason why you're standing here in the first place. Otherwise, you'll be in slavery in Egypt. Don't miss it. About 2,000 years later, we find Jesus in the upper room with the disciples. John 13. He knows that the end is near. The disciples, though they have heard it again and again, don't quite know yet. And so Jesus is about to lay down some rumble strips for them. I don't want you to miss this. So they are in the upper room. Judas has arisen and left to betray Jesus. They are sitting there. He has washed their feet, and they are just wondering what all this means. And he says to them, I'm about to give you a new commandment. That's what Braden just read for us. I'm about to give you a new commandment. Rumble strips, rumble strips, rumble strips. You've heard a lot of commandments before. There are 680 different commandments in the past. I am about to give you a new commandment. Everything should be going off, right? Well, what is this new commandment? He says, you are to love one another. Why? Because it is by this that other people will know that you are my disciples. Well, I don't know, but I imagine Peter would scratch his head. Peter, you can rely on Peter to raise a question. If Peter is thinking it, he's going to ask it. So it's not in the Bible, but I imagine Peter wondering, what's new about this commandment? Moses stood out there in the wilderness and said to the people, hear, O Israel, the Lord your God, the Lord alone, love the Lord your God. This love thing is not new. What's new about this commandment? Two things are new about this commandment that Jesus gives in the upper room. The first is notice how they are to love. He says, I want you to love one another just as I have loved you. Now we might think, well, just as, that means that do it the way I did it, right? I washed your feet, wash one another's feet. I served you humbly, serve one another. That's not it. In this sentence, just as means love one another from the same source that I loved you. So imagine a well inside of Jesus. And out of this well, he says, I have loved you. This is how I have healed. This is how I have restored. And I want you to tap into this same well in loving one another. Tap into this well, this same well, the same way I did it, in loving one another. The second thing that is new about this commandment is that it doesn't say we are to love God. Isn't that strange? You would think you would do it like Moses did. God is the one who has saved you. Love God with all your heart. No, that's not what Jesus said. Because it's so easy to talk about loving God. Do you love God, Blake? Sure I do. Yeah. I mean, Jesus says, no, I want you to love one another. Here in this room, I want you to love one another. Why? Because it is by your love for one another that other people will know that you are my disciples. And why does it matter if other people know that you are my disciples? Because that's what the mission is about, right? Jesus himself again and again said, the Son of Man came to seek and to save the lost. The word has to go out. The word has to go out. The word has to go out. It has to be pressed out. But who is it going to be pressed out through? It's going to be pressed out through the people who have come to believe and who claim the name of Christ. And that word is seriously undermined if you can't stand one another. It doesn't go anywhere. The mission dies if we cannot allow the light of love to shine among us. You know, and that is a little disappointing. Because I was thinking maybe Jesus, you know, if we had feats of power, I mean, some serious miracles done, that will draw people to you. Miracles are powerful. It will draw a crowd. It will not draw disciples. You get a big crowd. Yeah, they'll come and watch, but followers of Jesus walking in his way, that happens only when the attraction of love among those who claim the name of Christ takes hold. There is a problem, you see. There is a problem. And at this point, I want you to grab a hold of your rock. Jim, where is your rock? You left your rock back here. Well, we can't have that. Raise up your hand. I want every palm with a rock in it, please. You got your rock? Good. Relax your hand. I've got two. The problem with this talk of love, this new commandment that Jesus gives, the problem with it is that it doesn't take long at all before you find a rock in the church. It just really does not take very long at all. And what are these rocks? Well, These rocks are hurts, real hurts. These rocks are disappointments. These rocks are that email that somebody sent that set me back a pace or two. These rocks are a real reason to say, you know what? Who needs that? It doesn't take very long at all to find a rock in the church. Now here's the problem. I have myself here 2 nice rocks. Terry, you know what this means? It means I have in front of me here 2 hurtful events that happened among the people of God where I bled just a little bit. I can put a name or 2 on these things. I can think of a face or 2 on these things. Maybe you are at Pit Press for the very first time. If you are here for the very first time, you are exempted from this exercise. Otherwise, I want you to take a look at your rock. And I want you to name it, not out loud. I want you to identify what was it that happened here in this church that caused this rock to be in your palm. Something happened. Something happened. Somebody said something to somebody. Somebody sent a text. Somebody sent an email. Somebody was not treated correctly. Something happened that you were hurt. And don't tell me it's no big deal. It is a big deal. That's why the rock is in your hand. It's a big deal. Let's stop minimizing our hurt. It happened. You're in the hospital and nobody stopped by. Your daughter had a wedding and the AC was broken in the church and the pastor was out of town. You still have that rock. It happened. It hurt. It hurt. And as long as I have this rock in my hand, I am occupied with it. These hands are no longer free to serve. They are no longer free to love. Because they're busy. Are they not? Yeah. They are busy with these rocks. So yeah, Jesus said in John chapter 13, love one another, but I'm sorry. I've got myself a couple of rocks. It happened. I'm hurting. What to do? What to do with it? And Jesus is saying, for the sake of the mission, for the sake of the mission, love one another from the same source I have loved you. So he knows it's going to get tough, and he's calling on us to go to the same place he goes, that's the Holy Spirit, to empower and make us able to let go of the rocks. So that we are free again to love one another. Now, would that be the last time we find rocks in our hands? Are you kidding? No! No! It won't be the last time you find rocks in your hands. Something else will happen. That's just how it is. That's just how it is. Again, draw on that deeper source of how he loved us to let the rocks go for the sake of the mission. To joyfully share the good news of Jesus Christ. That's how we put it. Our session met last week, 2 weeks ago. And had a frank conversation. And some of the truth that came out is a long list of hurts, stones, real stones. Things that people are grumbling about, things that people are hurt about. Things that people make phone calls and hush-hush about. Just real things that have happened. Each of them a huge deal for the person who is speaking and the person who is carrying this rock. The need to be talked about, the need to be worked through. We're not going to sweep it under the rug and pretend everything is well. It is not. But I invite you to name your rock today and begin the process today of letting go. Of letting go. Crystal, if you would come. Susan, if you can provide us with a little music. As the music is being played, I invite you to look at your rock, to ask the Holy Spirit to help you be honest with it, know how much it weighs, and you're invited, if you are ready for it, to bring your rock and release it.